Alright, I do not know any Italian greetings off the top to start, so I will instead just say, what's up, mortals? It is Sailor Shara Zor-El here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 5, season 1 of What If Female Shinso Was an Assassin. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Endeavor was once again looking through the warehouse footage, trying to find anything he could on the Master Assassin's rescuer. His plan was a bold slap in the face to Japan's mentor, and if it had connected and succeeded, control over the country would have been his. Now, he just waited for the bells to toll that would signal the start of a brand new war.
Still nothing. I know I have broken the truce. They know I have broken the truce. They know that I have broken the truce. So what, pray tell, are they planning?
Endeavor mused to himself as he once again replayed a kill from the Maestro's rescuer.
Who are you?
The Grandmaster's security system was not equipped with audio recording. It just did not seem practical at the time. The warehouse that was used was meant only to supply storage, not Templar riches. He rewatched the kill on loop, looking for any telltale signs of identification. From what he could tell, the assassin was female, anywhere from 14 to 23 years of age given today's genetic culture. Throughout the incident, she wore the Brotherhood's infamous hood, which covered her face and hair. In addition to this, the gloves on her hands covered her skin. In short, Enji was looking at a ghost.
She's obviously not high-ranking. Disciple, maybe? She's only using one talent.
Endeavor then reached down and pulled out a bottle of 30-year-old bourbon. He prepped a glass with an ice ball and poured about 4 ounces of the dark golden liquid into it. The Grandmaster then switched to another camera that caught earlier footage from a different angle.
She is highly skilled. Disciple 2? Enforcer, perhaps? I will find you. And like the other vermin I have eliminated, you will soon fall.
Endeavor then froze all the footage from the other cameras, all of which bore the female assassin's image. Leaning back on his heavy office chair, he downed his drink, then refilled his glass. Endeavor's got a drinking problem, everybody! You heard it here first! At Aldera Middle School, Idoria Izuku was not one of the most popular boys in his class. In fact, he was the class's, and at times the school's, resident punching bag, all due to him being quirkless, and it was getting worse every day. Ever since Shinso had left a decade ago, one Bakugo Katsuki had made it his life mission to torment the green-haired cinnamon roll, which only got worse when the blonde asshole discovered that Midoriya was quirkless. Why you even here? Just go fucking kill yourself already! This among a litany of other vile, hate-filled pleasantries that constantly spewed out of the atomic blonde's mouth. You worthless, fucking useless Deku! However, that all changed when Shizo Hitomi returned. One bold confession later, the Greenette became her boyfriend. Yay! I ship it! And since they lived not too far from each other, they could now walk home together daily. This served her for 3 reasons. The first one being she wanted to spend as much time with her new boyfriend as possible. Second, Hitomi had seen Izuku's scars. That was never going to happen again. She held on to her smile as the girl became Midoriya's second pair of eyes on the walk home. Finally, the third was to practice her quirk. Sometimes, despite her best efforts, the Greenette's bullies would surround and entrap them along various parts of their journey home. Granted, Shinso was a highly skilled assassin trained by the Italian mentore herself, Ezio. In hindsight, she never really used her brainwashing quirk because she didn't see much of a need to do so. She was an assassin. Shinso's quirk was pretty self-explanatory. Anyone stupid enough to answer an inquiry from her was instantly put into trance-like state. Of course, the little raptor had to have direct intent to activate it, thus preventing her from stupefying anyone else who would want to talk to her. Midoriya, on the other hand, was amazed by his girlfriend's talent and wrote several pages in his hero notebook, volume 13, on her. That aside, the happy couple was now facing down yet another encounter with the blonde brat and his cronies. Nice alliteration. However, this time they caught Hitomi and Izuku at the tunnel they had to go through before their final stretch home, where the lovebirds were forced to part ways.
None of you damn extras speak to her, and we're fine!
Bakugo gave out his command to his cronies.
Fucking Deku. Look how pathetic you are, hiding behind your damn whore!
Yeah, I'm just gonna say on the record, Bakugo's an ass. The word stung, but Shinso had prepared for this ambush.
Time to no longer be afraid, Missy Jino. What?
Midoriya's eyes went blank.
Show these three what I taught you.
Shinso pointed at the cronies the asshole brought with him.
Leave the il figulo de putana to me.
Shinso then directed her gaze onto Bakugo, a hatred burning in her eyes. She remembered that his mother was a part of the Knights Templar, so she could not do too much damage to the boy. She had also been documenting her boyfriend's aggressors on video, along with the evidence her Zio and uncle had gathered from Aldera's database. They knew of the discrimination, all of it, and on video no less. Yet they did nothing about it, nor stopped it. All due to not wanting to hurt their star pupil's chances of becoming a hero. Yeah, fuck that!
I'ma kill you. He needs.
Shinso did not even give him time to finish his nonsense, as she came in hard with the gut shot to the bastardo solar plexus. He doubled over, losing his lunch on her arm. It wasn't long till the asshole recovered, and she leaned back, weaving to the left and narrowly dodging the blast from his explosion quirk. The blonde's power was due to the combination of his parents' quirks. His sweat was like nitroglycerin, thus he could create, you guessed it, explosions! Shinso somersaulted, sending a hard kick to Bakugo's chin before landing and immediately tackling him into several trash cans. Oh hi, thanks for checking in. Bakugo's still a piece of garbage! Shinso was struck with the counterblast, launching her off him. The blonde boy was livid now as he used his quirk to launch himself after her. In an instant, he caught up to her before she fell. Shinso grabbed the boy, rotating her body, which swiftly flipped him headfirst into a brutal takedown. The move was called an Izuna drop and was taught to her by Ezio's Spanish mercenary friend, Vega B. Cortez. Back with Midoriya, the boy was actually doing well, even though he was slightly brainwashed. The green-app performed the moves his girlfriend taught him quite well. That was until the final goon, a pudgy snot with the red bat wing-like quirk, got a lucky strike. The green bead snapped out of it and caught the snot's second strike.
What?
Midoriya tripped over his own 2 feet and launched the winged snot to the brick wall behind him, knocking him out.
Oh shit! Shit!
The boy then looked up as his eyes widened and saw his girlfriend pull at each other's throats. Their clothes were ripped in various places. No, not there. Don't think dirty. Stop it. Stop it. And all the while, Midoriya was slowly losing his mind. Finally, Bakugo's right hook was met by a counter slam to the ground by Shinso. The Crimson Eye teen pops up only to be slammed back down to the ground as the violet-haired assassin's fist is buried into his nose. Hitomi! Midoriya calls out, only for something to suddenly grab him. Shinso does not hear his cries as a villain made of sludge silenced the boy. Shinso finally picks the blonde asshole up and slams a right haymaker into his jaw, sending him flying into the brick wall behind him. Shifting her style to that of a boxer, Hitomi begins to unload all of her hatred into the exploding Pomeranian. The assassin loses herself with every strike to his body, face, and sides. Before she could land the final blow, a massive wind knocked her and the boy. Texas Slash! Hitting the ground outside and dazed, Hitomi's eyes suddenly widened as she sees Japan's #1 hero, All Might, holding her boyfriend. The girl then turns her eyes to the one whose backside she had literally just nailed to a wall. Bakugo was a bloody mess. She knew she had done the right thing. As soon as Shinso got to her feet and immediately collapsed, her adrenaline had just finished running its course. Was the last thing Shinso muttered before she fell face down in unconsciousness. Several hours later, the two children are brought to the hospital with their parents and guardians waiting for them. Shinso was the first to wake up. After taking one look at Bakugo's mother, the girl gives the woman a knowing sneer at what she is. "Your son is a bully and an asshole," she waved off the Templar mother. "He and his cronies ambushed us at the tunnel. However, by the look on your face, you already know this." Miss Bakugo took a seething breath. She wasn't dense and knew the antics of her precious son. "Look at my burn marks!" Shinso shouted at her as the Templar women popped her knuckles. "I didn't use my quirk on your boy as he did on me and my boyfriend, but I made him pay, and I will not apologize. He was in surgery for 12 hours, the boy's mother said as hot, infuriated tears ran down her cheeks. "I failed to see." Shinso caught the woman's hand before she could slap her. "Are you that blind or just as discriminatory? For kids are reflections of their parents, as they say." I tried to make him stop. That green-haired child is an angel. Shinso was caught off guard by her. "I've seen the video and your fighting style, so let's cut the crap. Mr. Aizawa, if you would close the door." Aizawa nodded as he told his husband to stand guard outside momentarily. Hisashi nodded. He did not want any part of the conversation that was about to occur. "What were your intentions?" Mitsuki opened up as Shinso looked towards her Zio, who nodded. "The fact that you are a Templar was not the case." At Shinso's words, Mitsuki adjusted herself. "As I said, he ambushed us with his fucking cronies." "So, vengeance." The Templar mother's eyes widen and then narrow. "Your son is an asshole, mouthing out about everyone is beneath him and he will be number one, blah blah blah." Shinso clenched her fists as her anger began to boil. "He tormented my Sijino. He's covered in scars, scared at the slightest sound. Perkelo! Only for you and everyone else in that fucking school to do nothing!" "Really? That's what you think?" Shinso bore her teeth at her. "I have gone with the entire order behind me to get them to do something about how the quirkless are treated." "Bullshit!" Shinso sprang up only to fall back in pain. "Every day, all they do is praise your good-for-nothing child!" "Oh, you think it stops there?" Mitsuki leaned in. "My order only backed me to shut me up. They're already looking at my kid as their next big thing. As for my boy, well, you met him. So what are you going to do?" Mitsuki drops a newspaper, the headline saying corruption, negligence, and abuse of the quirkless at Aldera Mill. "How long have I been out?" 2 days. The boy's in a medically induced coma," Aizawa said flatly. "I am so proud." In reality, Aizawa was anything but proud, though he understood why. It may have infuriated him beyond being just plain pissed off. He knew what Katsuki did to his niece and her boyfriend. However, her actions had placed him in a very volatile situation. "I am not a fool, little assassin. My son got what he so needed and richly deserved." Itsuki's eyes then filled with more tears. "But he is still my son, my precious boy that, despite everything, I love him with all that I am." Shinso met the Templar's tears with cold, unmerciful silence. Who in that room could blame her for defending herself or her boyfriend? The older Bakugo could no longer stand it as she got up. She would not inform her order and told the assassins just as much. Her boy was in the wrong and thus had no standing. Mitsuki then left Shinso's room to be by her son's side. Aizawa looked at his niece, taking a deep breath before finally speaking.
I am indeed at a loss. I am not mad or disappointed in you.
It's her ties with the Order Zero. Aizawa cut her off as he hugged her tightly. His actions silenced all her doubts.
I had no choice.
Aizawa shook his head as he comforted his niece.
You took him down hard. So this new boyfriend, when exactly were you going to tell me?
More importantly, why did Hisashi know before me? His embrace became tighter as Hitomi winced, tapping his side desperately. Because of this exact reaction. It was then that Hisashi entered. Uncle, help me. Hisashi then slowly backed out the door to the wide puppy dog eyes of complete betrayal from his niece. Uncle, Shinso wept. Hisashi Aizawa whispered.
I'm so sorry, niece. He outranks me.
He shed bitter tears at the pleas of his niece as he closed the door. Shinso returned home 2 days later. Though her injuries were not extensive, she still had heavy bruising along her ribs and microfractures. Izuku was waiting for her as she entered her home, along with his mother, Inko Midoriya. Losing herself, Shinso ran into Izuku's arms. The greenette then picked her up, much to everyone's surprise. Mi amor! Izuku smiled as he quickly set her down, much to her disappointment. What? Izuku silenced her with a kiss, apparently something that gave him a much-needed confidence boost. Aizawa and Hisashi stared in shock as the boy's mother had her hands to her mouth and tears in her eyes. Finally, Izuku broke the kiss as he stood confidently, looking at the three adults. My name is Izuku Idoria, and I am Hitomi Tsuchino. Over my... Aizawa was hushed as Hisashi pulled his husband back and smiled at his niece. Nuh-uh. Hitomi, get your man. Shota glared at him, only for Hisashi to pull down his sunglasses, revealing a raised eyebrow followed by a head shake. Shota, I like him. The little listener is sweet. Kinda just look at his adorable face. President Mike pulled Izuku out of Shinso's embrace and into his own. He then gently squeezed the greenette's cheeks and pointed the captured boy's face to his grumpy husband. His fluffy hair, these oh-so-cute freckles, he's like a bundle of sunshine and cinnamon rolls! It was then that Leonidas meowed, causing Aizawa to look down to see the kitten rubbing in and out of Izuku's legs. Meow. Now if that's not a better endorsement, I don't know what is! Shota closed his eyes, gritting his teeth. He then flared his quirk at the boy. Quirkless! Sorry, sir! Izuku squeaked. The boy knew about the man's quirk and underground hero status. Shota already knew that from Hisashi, but that was beside the point. His hair was on end, and his eyes flashed a glowing crimson. To say it intimidated the boy was a vast understatement.
Listen closely, problem child.
Izuku swallowed hard as he raised her head pointed at Hitomi. That is my world. Take care of her heart, or I will rip yours out. Capere? Izuku and his mother turned pale. Hisashi released Izuku to catch his mother as she fainted. Kid, as cold as it sounds, that goes double for me. That's our little girl you have. Please, take care of her. Hisashi added, though he was a bit more gentle with his wording. Inko soon awoke thereafter in the arms of President Mike. She smiled as he helped her to her feet. Izuku and Hitomi looked at her with weak smiles, to which Inko took both of them in her arms. All she could do was shed tears of happiness at this sudden development. Aldera Middle School was shut down by week's end, and its third-year students automatically graduated. They could now either start a trade school or continue their education by taking a high school entry exam. Now, free of the torment that was his middle school, Izuku could concentrate on what gave him such a confidence boost.
Where has he been going for the last several months?
Shinso had been wondering this on the daily ever since Aldera was closed down.
He has been quite secretive about it.
To say the little raptor was curious would not be far off. She never really pried into her boyfriend's personal life. Hell, for the most part, she was his personal life. However, her beloved Shichino had changed. It was not a bad one, she had to admit. He had been working out more and was vastly more confident. Or, as the My Hero Academia in 6 minutes put it, so after going to the beach and getting jacked! Whatever happened to him, she knew if she followed him, she'd find out.
Hitomi, just let him be. You yourself told me that you liked the change.
Honestly, who wouldn't? Shinso recalled her Zio's words, but she could not help it, and her curious mind had to find out why. She had been keeping a short distance from her target, using a combination of her agility and eagle vision. She had stuck to her boyfriend like glue. Now, it was about to pay off. Hitomi spotted him, entering what looked to be a beach or a landfill. Either way, the sight only served to feed her growing curiosity. Parkouring down to and quickly free-running back up an apartment building overlooking the beach. Parkour! It was then she saw something that blew her mind. A scrawny man about a meter tall suddenly burst into Japan's #1 hero. The sight caused her to stumble off the roof and let out a scream. In a flash, All Might spotted her, then caught her before she hit the ground. What the hell? Shinso's eyes were wider than dinner plates. What the hell are you, demonico? All Might looked at her confused as she began to ramble on in Italian. Oh shit, that's my girlfriend! All Might set the girl down and looked back at Izuku with a different, almost mischievous smile. Well done, young Midoriya. Izuku cringed at the praise, covering his head and giving a thumbs up. Shinso finally finished her ranting. I saw you go from a skinny twig of a man into this. Are those muscles even real? Ah, shit. All Might groaned. You were spying on me? Hitomi! Izuku shouted at her, causing the little raptor to look away, her cheeks turning red. I wanted to know what caused you to change. Hitomi said in a slight whisper. You said something happened to you, but you never said what. Though I am glad that you are more confident. I just... Izuku shook his head and hugged her. She loved being in his arms. It felt right. It felt safe. All Might is training me for the UA entry exam. I could not say anything because, well, he's All Might. At this explanation, Hitomi let out a surrendering sigh. Bellamia, I want to be able to save people, quirkless or not. I want to be able to protect those I care about. Izuku then gently brought Hitomi's face to his own. To protect the one I love. After this confession, Hitomi's eyes lit up as tears threatened to... No, too late, they were already flowing. She then wrapped her arms around him as his own mirrored her actions. I love you, Hitomi. I always have. Ever since I met you. Shinso then silenced his words with a kiss. The moment, however, was soon ruined as a big behemoth of a man gave off a loud sob. The two looked at All Might, who looked like a hot mess. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Shuko, Hitomi said dryly, to which Izuku just shook his head. So this is how you got all of your muscles, yes? Izuku sighed and explained almost all of what All Might had planned for him, leaving out how the hero would pass down his quirk to him. Shinso listened intently and then looked at the would-be mentore for her boyfriend. As much as she wanted to help, this was his thing. She was not going to be a helicopter girlfriend. She loved. The little raptor then began to smile once more. Her Shichino said he loved her.
If you want to learn how to fly, I will teach you, but I seriously think this gorilla doesn't know how to free run.
All Might was aghast at Shinso's bold statement.
Pardonami, signore, but facts are facts.
All Might did care too much for the girl's tone, much less her statement.
Very well, mi amore. Have fun.
Hitomi then took off laughing as she free ran up a jump car and onto a wall before disappearing after reaching a building roof. All Might shook his head. She was right. No way he could do that. He then cursed himself that he did not stop her.
I'll have to talk to her later.
Drop a comment about your favorite series or favorite scene or anything you liked hearing out of me or the suggestions. Thank you to our team for another amazing video. If you're interested in joining our team and you are 16 years of age or older, feel free to check out the link in the description. Thank you all for watching till the end and have a fantastic day. Bye!